Hi everyone, this is Crane back with another Solana Ecosystem Index podcast. Today is April 7th, 2022. It has been 3 weeks since our last podcast, and it feels like it's been a lot quicker, like I'm doing these one week after the other, but no, it has been 3 weeks, right? Because we do have 3 index tokens. So these podcasts happen every 3 weeks, usually the beginning or the end of the week, depending when I have an interview or not. But today we're talking about SOLI, our Solana Ecosystem Index. Now, if you had looked at this 24 hours ago or even like a few days ago, you would have seen SOLI would have been at $1 million market cap, which would have been wonderful. But unfortunately, the last 24 hours, something has happened. What that something is, I'm sure people who are in the crypto space or people who are not in the crypto space would have seen. That is not what we're here to talk about today. Today, we're going to recap our Solana Ecosystem Index, sort of the price action for the last week. Then we're going to talk about the constituents, and then we'll talk about all the news. And there are a lot of tabs to talk about today, so please bear with me. We're going to try and make this as quick as possible. But anyway, let's get started and have a look at our SOLI index. As you can see, I remember things were like $8.12, right, on April 2nd. But unfortunately, it has gone all the way down to $6.61 now. Current market cap is $891,240. And our constituents have expanded. So we have two new things to talk about today. One is the UXP Governance Token, which is offered by UXD Protocol. The other one is Fabric as well. So it's a great thing, right? You've been exposed to two more constituents automatically. You don't have to open up wallets. You don't have to buy anything. I think that's the beauty of an index token as well. There's the detail of the rebalance, which happened on April 4th. Here's the IPFS hash, which you can click on, and it shows you what went from something to something. Again, interesting if you want to look at that sort of thing. So this is what has happened so far with SOLI. Hopefully things get better, who knows. And let's talk about our first constituent today, which is Marinade Staked Solana, or mSOL. So if you have been listening to this podcast, or if you have been looking at other Solana news, you would have realized that Marinade has launched their NFT program. We've talked about it on this podcast as well. They're sort of like seafood themed NFTs, right? So it says acquire and stake Marinade to receive an NFT that you can use to vote and earn within the Marinade DAO. When do I receive my NFT? Is it possible to sell or transfer my NFT? And this sort of explains what the NFT is. I do remember it was you have to stake 1,000 Marinade tokens or $1,000 of Marinade tokens. I think it probably is 1,000 Marinade tokens, because if you look on Magic Eden, which is probably one of the best, or if not the second best sort of Solana NFT platform available, the floor price, and this was like a few hours ago, was 1.6. Now the floor price is 1.3 SOL. The highest bid at the moment is 0.75 SOL for this sort of NFT. And these NFTs look really cute, colorful in a sense. Some of these have colors, some of them do not have colors. And I can't believe some people are selling these already. And yeah, these are the chefs. And the other thing about Marinade that I wanted to mention is it says, thank you, SOLI Protocol. It was a pleasure as well. SOLI Protocol now supports the lending and leverage trading of mSOL, thanks to Marinade Finance. One of the things, if you've been listening to this podcast and the new segment for a while, I love to talk about like new protocols, new things happening in the crypto space. And SOLI Protocol, right, that lime green sort of color over there, they are a protocol that we're going to learn about. So it says the financial portal of Web3. Lending and leverage trading and financial identity accumulate the value of on-chain behaviors built on Solana. They are the investors, components, permissionless financial identity for Web3. And we talked about that, I believe, on last week in Pico, the idea of doing KYC on the chain as opposed to using Fractal or some other KYC company. Efficient decentralized governance. So they have this DAO as privacy protection through ZK Snark, right? ZK rollups, ZK Snark. Polymorphic assets, support polymorphic assets such as LP tokens, flash liquidations, cross-asset replay, aggregate leverage trading. They've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, USD Tether. What I mentioned, Imagine is BNB over there. And they have USDC, Raydium, Serum. I'm not sure what this is. This must be USDT as well. A powerful on-chain personal information system. Help users accumulate the value of on-chain behavior and provide data services for the ecosystem to realize refinement operations. We have an interesting thing here, credit source. Credit score will become an important reference for your future whitelist and airdrop, right? So credit scores, right? Every country has credit scores.
Understanding your credit score, presented by WallStreetSurvivor.com. A credit score is a simple 3-digit number that tells lenders how likely you are to repay a loan. Here are two friends, Leslie and Andy. Leslie and Andy are both 30 years old, living in the same city, working at the same place, and earning the same salary. Leslie is fiscally responsible. She puts a portion of her salary into a savings account every month, always pays her credit card bills on time, and has never missed a payment on the mortgage of her home or her student loans. Andy, on the other hand, is a fiscal mess. Andy lives beyond his means and is always pushing the limit on his credit card, and isn't afraid to miss a payment or two to buy the things he wants. Andy rents an apartment and hasn't even paid off his student loan yet. Now, if both Leslie and Andy came to a banker looking for a loan, which one do you think will get the better rate? Obviously, given their histories, Leslie is more likely to pay back the money she borrows on credit, on time. On the surface, however, Leslie and Andy look pretty similar. Same income, same job, same city. It's only when you dig a little deeper you can get to the good stuff. In order to save time, lenders invented the credit score that takes into account all of your financial history. Banks use your credit score when you apply for any loan, such as a mortgage, a business loan, a line of credit, or car and student loans. Scores typically range from 200 to 850. The higher your score, the better your credit is, and the better rates you'll get. The average score in the United States is around 711. A score of around 740 and above usually gives you the best interest rates, and scores of 620 and below usually prohibit you from borrowing any money at all. A good credit score is important to get good rates on the money that you borrow. For example, given their spending habits, Leslie's credit score would be closer to 850, while Andy's would be closer to 600. If they both need to borrow $1,000, Leslie's interest rate would be closer to 5%, while Andy's could be as high as 20%. So, while Leslie's monthly interest payments would be $50, Andy's would be $200. You can build good credit by getting a credit card as young as possible, paying off your credit card in full every month, sticking with the same credit card for a long time, and never missing a payment on a loan. To learn more about credit reports and other personal finance topics, head over to wallstreetsurvivor.com.
The American system is probably familiar to a lot of people, right? The higher credit score, the better things you can do. Mortgages, cell phones, that sort of stuff. NFT data and visualization. So this looks like a very multi-faceted, very comprehensive protocol, audited and verified by CertiK. All right, interesting. So if you're interested to learn or use it, definitely have a look at their website. And now we are going to move on to the second constituent of our SOLI index, which is Raydium. And one of the things with Raydium, and we've talked about this before, is they have a launchpad platform called Acceleraytor. And that name always makes me laugh and smile because it's such a cool name. So they're launching another protocol. And if you remember, we talked about Zebek on the last SOLI episode, which was the payroll system for on-chain payroll. And Nirvana is launching an accelerator. And it says Nirvana Protocol is a twin system. Nirvana Protocol is a twin system that produces ANA, a volatile token with an algorithmically rising floor price, as well as NERV, a decentralized super stable coin with a delegated peg. A very complicated terminology. So we know what volatile is, we know what a delegated peg is, right? Stablecoins are pegged to the US dollar. Yield for staking ANA and taking NERV loans is distributed to PR ANA, pre-ANA, which are tokens that act as non-expiring options to mint ANA. All right, very cool. PR ANA is not a standard governance token. PR ANA Accelerator public raise details. Total tokens for the raid, 125,000 PR ANA unlocked. Token fixed price, 2 USD for 1 PR ANA. So they're raising 250K. Okay, not bad. This, we've talked about the accelerated program before. You need to meet certain conditions. Allocation will be determined by a random ticket draw. Even if you do have the requirements right, it's not guaranteed that you're going to be able to participate in the allocation. 4-day deadline. I'm not going to read all of these again because we have read about them before when we talked about Zebek, the payroll on-chain solution. You can read all of these yourselves. How does it work? Interesting. Let's look at Nirvana Protocol as well. Decentralized stability, algorithmic wealth. I've talked about the tokens as well with distinct purposes, working in concert to build a sustainable algorithmic store of wealth. Okay. Store of value and store of wealth. I love the colors here, right? Concentrates and diversifies stablecoin liquidity. Decentralized, ultra low risk, super stable currency. I like that. Stablecoin with a delegated peg. Store of wealth stores wealth with its rising floor price and a sustainable APY. So you guys would have known for Anchor Protocol, right? People worried about APY. And other stablecoins as well. It's like, how do you maintain that high APY? Algorithmic metastable token, a volatile yield-bearing investment with a reserve-backed rising floor price. Okay, how the protocol works, reserve-backed floor. So it's backed by a diversified basket of stable tokens stored on a protocol-owned reserve. That is very interesting. Protocol-owned liquidity, rising floor price, staking rewards. Okay, very cool. This gives me an idea that I will hopefully remember by the end of this podcast. The Serum NFT Ecosystem, right? So Serum partners with Burn Finance to launch debut NFT collection. I used to say debit when I was a kid, but it's debut, and this is just NFTs on Burn Finance. These look really cool. I have to say, I like the idea of surfing. So you guys know I'm from South Africa, right? I used to grew up next to the ocean. I am not a surfer, I will say that much, but these look cool. Like the little coconut juice drinking over there, the bandana, and the guy surfing on a banana with beer and bubble gum. Cool. And it says why surfers. The Serum servers are special homage to Solana Network's inception. Solana was named after Solana Beach in California, where founders Raj Gokul and Anatoly Yakovenko surfed alongside many of the early employees. Wow, I didn't realize Anatoly surfed. The Serum servers enjoy riding the large waves of liquidity. Why not? Okay, when? So it'll begin April, blah, blah, with more details. So again, we don't know when, what is the cost, how many servers? 5,000 servers. Like I might think I might actually participate in this. But again, not financial advice. Do your own research. So if you're interested in these NFTs, please have a look in the show notes as well. Let's move on. Tulip Protocol. Now, Tulip Protocol doesn't have a lot of news going on. One of the things I did want to highlight today is it says our first proposal was passed with overwhelming support for a 10% buyback with generated profits. The team is already trapping with set intervals, and we will announce once the first staking rewards have been distributed. So what this is about is basically Tulip is buying back Tulip tokens, right? Buybacks are usually good. I talked about Nexo doing a buyback for Nexo tokens. When a protocol buys back tokens, right, they're reducing the supply that holders have. And generally speaking, that is good. And that's good for holders because usually that means they buy back tokens at a higher price than what the actual price is. And that means you make a little bit of money. I sold some of my Nexo tokens when Nexo was doing their buyback, and it was pretty decent. Okay, good for Tulip as well. It's definitely a positive step for the community and people who have been holding Tulip tokens for a while. And let's move on to our newest protocol, which is UXD Protocol, right? Now they have a very like minimalistic sort of early 90s, late 80s website. It says UXD is an algorithmic stablecoin backed 100% by delta neutral position. So I was on a phone call or a meeting earlier with one of my colleagues, Kevin, and I was explaining to him what I think a delta neutral position is, and I guess he probably knows more than I do, but we're going to look at what a delta neutral position is just now. So this is longs, shorts, and the yields, and this is the neutral position over here. This much I understand. It says anyone can always mint 1 UXD for 1 USD. Mint redemption process is instant. The funding rate of the delta neutral position will be automatically distributed to the stakeholders of UXD protocol. Transact with anyone, anywhere, and any time. So censorship resistant. That's interesting in the age of KYC, right? Where basically most places, most countries are moving towards regulation where crypto websites, crypto exchanges, there's lots of terminology for this, but that these are the people that have to show who their customers are to the government or to their local government or to some person in authority, so that they know against AML legislation or AML laws, anti-money laundering laws, terrorism laws as well. So it says UXD solves the stablecoin trilemma. This doesn't explain anything to me. You guys might know what that is. Decentralized, right? Stable, capital efficient, right? UXD protocol is decentralized. UXD protocol does not custody user assets, and the users will not interact with any centralized entity. This ensures that everyone will be able to transact without censorship. Wow, so UXD protocol doesn't take custody of assets. That's pretty good, right? UXD protocol is price stable. Since UXD is 100% backed by a delta neutral position, users will always be able to redeem 1 UXD for 1 USD worth of assets. UXD protocol is capital efficient. Users can issue 1 UXD with 1 USD worth of assets without a requirement of over collateralization. Okay, so this is there. Almeida Research is in there. Solana Foundation, Mercurial Finance, Defiance Capital, Raj Gokul, and Anatoly as well. So personal investments from them as well. That's really cool. So this is UXD Protocol. Now, what is a delta neutral position? So delta neutral is a portfolio strategy utilizing multiple positions with balancing positive and negative deltas so that the overall delta of the assets in question totals zero. A delta neutral portfolio evens out the response to the market movements for a certain range to bring the net change of the position to zero. Delta measures how much an adoption prices change when the underlying security price changes. As the values of the underlying assets change, the position of the Greeks will shift between positive and negative and neutral. Investors who want to maintain delta neutrality must adjust their portfolio holdings accordingly. So this sort of goes into delta neutral. So just like the words, it says neutral, up or not down. And you definitely want to read more into this if you understand. I think this is good enough for this podcast. And let's keep moving on, right? We're at the 15-minute mark and we have 2 more things to talk about. So let's talk about Solend. So it says UXD, right? We just talked about them. UXD has the highest yields on Solend protocol. So if you look at this picture over here, it says UXD, right? The $1 asset, right? Because it is exceptionally stable. Total supply is $12 million. The supply APY. So if you supply UXD, right, today, you'd be getting 14.72% APY, which is pretty good, right? Now, the borrow APY, 9.25%, which is nice. That's pretty good. So Solend and UXD must have obviously partnered together. If you are a UXD holder, that would be something to take advantage of. 14% APY is definitely a good interest rate. And the last thing we are going to talk about today is Fabric. Now, Fabric is the sort of the smallest constituent of our SOLI index token, right? It says it's about derivatives trading, made easy. Trade derivatives with low fees, unlimited equity, and unrivaled speed, all from the comfort of the Solana blockchain. Gain exposure to all the most popular cryptocurrencies, fiat currencies, stocks, commodities, and more with infinite liquidity, zero slippage, that's impressive, and no risk of front running. Now let's have a look down, because one thing I do want to mention to you guys is that they have not launched. So we are Q1 2022, right? It says launch a ZAP one-click swap to LP. Launch support for additional collateral on Fabric synthetic dApp. Right, so they've actually just launched a Zapper, right, which you should have a look at. So this is Fabric launches Zap powered by Jupiter and Raydium. It aggregates more than 200 liquidity pools across Solana. Fabric releases Zap, a new feature to swap single tokens directly to LP tokens. The synthetic asset protocol announced the one-click swapper on March 29th via Twitter. So literally about like 10 days ago. Allows users to enter liquidity pools on Raydium, Ochre, and soon in Saber. This means no more long-winded token swaps or complex math when entering pools on Solana. Just pick the token you want to sell, the pool you want to enter, and voila! Bodhi's your uncle. Share the team on the announcement blog. There it gives the example. Choose your desired LP, USDC, Ray, Mercurial. Choose your token to deposit. You have now staked into an LP on just one click. Oh, that sounds interesting, because I've talked about this before, right? Like I've just been exploring liquidity providing very recently, because I used to do it on Binance, and Binance is definitely much easier because, well, there's wallets and confirming transactions. It's just pretty much 2 or 3 clicks on a centralized app. But doing it yourself is a fair bit more difficult and maybe a little bit more stressful. So I like the idea of this. I have to check out Fab, and maybe on the next Last Week in Soli podcast, we can check out Fab. So this explains what Fabric is. This is what Fabric has done so far. So Zap is launched, right? When I was planning out this episode, I was going to tell you guys that things haven't launched, but apparently it has launched, which is good for them. So now in the rest of 2022, because we are already technically in Q2, right? Launch a Fabric voting DAO on mainnet, complete external audit for Fabric synthetics dApp, release Fabric dApp on mainnet. So the dApp is not out right now. You can see, right? You can stake Fab. Now it'll take us to the Zap website, but we cannot do the actual Fabric app at the moment. So there's no, it says trading is coming soon. So that's something to keep in mind if you're excited about the idea of using Fabric, but nothing just yet. But Zap is cool, right? Something to make your life easier. And especially, right, a lot of you guys are very similar to me, right? You're busy. You don't want to spend too much time on your crypto, set it and forget it. So this definitely seems like an option for people. All right, and let's go back and have a look at Soli. So lots of things going on at the moment, right? I hope you guys are enjoying things and enjoying the crypto space. If you did not know, you guys, I released a podcast on the weekend, or earlier this week, sorry, with my coworker Jason, who works in the tokens team for business development. Definitely a very cool guy, very smart. he's definitely somebody you should be listening to, or at least listen to his podcast, because he learned crypto so quickly, and it's an inspirational story I would definitely say people can relate to. It's easy to learn very quickly, and if you think crypto is too difficult, no, it's never too late. If Jason can do it, you can do it. Now, next week, I will be doing a podcast with somebody called Tulip from Marinade Finance, mSOL. So if you have any questions about Marinade Finance or mSOL, please send me a message on Twitter. Please come to our Discord or Telegram and let us know. And then after that, next week, I'll be doing a last week in DeFi episode at the end of that week. And then the next week after that, I'll be meeting with Kento. He is the founder of UXD Protocol, right? The stable protocol, right? The delta neutral protocol. So if you have any questions about him, you can always send those in as well. And that's pretty much podcasts, videos that we're expecting for the next 2 weeks or so. All right, guys, thank you very much for listening. I expected this podcast to be like 25 minutes or so, but it was much faster. I was a little bit nervous today. But anyway, take care, guys, and talk to you later.